The Bell R-1 Cobra was the world's first purpose-built attack helicopter, and it completely redefined modern aerial warfare. Developed during the Vietnam War, the Cobra emerged from a simple idea: take the proven Huey helicopter, strip away everything unnecessary, and turn it into a fast, lethal gunship. Introduced in 1967, the R-1's slim fuselage and tandem cockpit made it harder to hit and far more agile than armed transport helicopters. Its narrow profile allowed it to fly low and fast, hugging terrain to avoid enemy fire. This design philosophy would influence attack helicopters for decades. The Cobra's firepower was revolutionary. Mounted in a chin turret, it carried a 20mm cannon or grenade launcher, capable of shredding infantry positions. Stub wings allowed it to carry rockets and early anti-tank missiles, transforming it into a true battlefield predator. During Vietnam, the AH-1 escorted troop transports, suppressed enemy fire, and provided close air support. Its speed and precision saved countless lives on the ground. As the Cold War intensified, upgraded Cobras became tank killers, armed with tow missiles to counter Soviet armored formations. The AH-1 Cobra proved that helicopters could dominate the battlefield, not just support it. Its legacy lives on in modern gunships around the world. The Mil Mi-24 Hind was unlike anything the West had ever seen. Part helicopter, part flying tank, the Hind was a terrifying symbol of Soviet military doctrine. Introduced in the early 1970s, it combined heavy firepower, armor protection, and troop-carrying capability into one brutal machine. Nicknamed the flying tank, the Mi-24 was heavily armored, capable of surviving direct hits from small arms, and even some anti-aircraft fire. Unlike Western designs, it could carry up to 8 fully armed soldiers, allowing it to deliver troops directly into combat zones while providing its own fire support. Its weaponry was devastating: a nose-mounted cannon, rocket pods, bombs, and anti-tank guided missiles. On the battlefield, the Hind was fast, aggressive, and intimidating. NATO pilots described it as relentless and unforgiving. The Mi-24 saw extensive combat during the Soviet-Afghan War, where it dominated early fighting. However, the arrival of portable surface-to-air missiles exposed its weaknesses, forcing changes in tactics. Despite this, the Hind remains one of the most iconic helicopters ever built, a Cold War symbol of brute force and Soviet engineering. Although it entered service near the end of the Cold War, the AH-64 Apache represented the ultimate evolution of Cold War attack helicopter thinking. Designed specifically to hunt Soviet tanks, the Apache was built around one mission: destroy armored formations at night and in bad weather. Equipped with advanced sensors, thermal imaging, and a powerful targeting system, the Apache could detect and engage enemies before being seen. Its Hellfire missiles allowed it to destroy tanks from kilometers away with deadly precision. The Apache's survivability was unmatched. Redundant systems, armored cockpits, and crash-resistant design ensured pilots could survive intense combat. Combined with a devastating 30mm chain gun, the Apache was a nightmare for ground forces. The AH-64 symbolized Western technological superiority and marked the transition into modern helicopter warfare. Light, fast, and agile, the SA-342 Gazelle showed that not all attack helicopters needed heavy armor to be effective. Designed primarily for reconnaissance and anti-tank roles, the Gazelle relied on speed and agility rather than brute force. Armed with hot anti-tank missiles, the Gazelle could ambush enemy armor and disappear before retaliation. Its fenestron tail rotor reduced noise, making it harder to detect. Used extensively by NATO and allied nations, the Gazelle proved highly effective in Cold War Europe and Middle Eastern conflicts. Nicknamed the Loach, the OH-6 Cayuse was small, nimble, and deadly. Originally a reconnaissance helicopter, it was frequently armed for attack missions during Vietnam. Its agility allowed it to fly dangerously low, drawing enemy fire so gunships could engage targets. Armed variants carried machine guns, rockets, and grenade launchers. The OH-6 proved that even light helicopters could play lethal roles in modern warfare. The Kamov Ka-25, known by NATO as Hormone, represents a very different philosophy of attack and combat helicopter design during the Cold War. While Western nations focused on fast, agile gunships for land warfare, the Soviet Union also recognized another battlefield: the oceans. The Ka-25 was designed not for deserts or jungles, but for the unforgiving environment of naval warfare. Introduced in the early 1960s, the Ka-25 was developed specifically for operations from Soviet warships. This requirement alone forced radical design choices. Unlike most helicopters, the Ka-25 used Kamov's signature coaxial rotor system, meaning two counter-rotating rotors stacked on top of each other. This eliminated the need for a tail rotor, making the helicopter more compact, a critical advantage when operating from small ship decks in rough seas. Although not a traditional attack helicopter in the Western sense, the Ka-25 was heavily armed and played an aggressive combat role. Its primary mission was anti-submarine warfare, but it was also capable of attacking surface targets and defending Soviet naval formations from enemy submarines and ships. The Ka-25 could carry torpedoes, depth charges, naval mines, and later guided anti-ship weapons. In a Cold War scenario, this helicopter would have been one of the first lines of defense against NATO submarines attempting to track or threaten Soviet fleets. From above the waves, the Ka-25 hunted enemies hidden below them. What truly set the Ka-25 apart was its advanced sensor suite for the time. It carried dipping sonar systems, radar, and magnetic anomaly detectors, allowing it to locate submarines even when they were completely submerged. Once a target was detected, the Ka-25 could immediately engage, making it both a hunter and executioner. Survivability was another key focus. Naval combat is unpredictable, and the Ka-25 was built to endure harsh weather, saltwater corrosion, and emergency landings at sea. Its rugged construction reflected Soviet priorities: reliability over comfort, function over form. During the height of the Cold War, Ka-25 helicopters were deployed across the Soviet Navy, operating from cruisers, destroyers, and even aircraft carriers. NATO intelligence closely monitored these helicopters, knowing that wherever a Soviet fleet operated, Ka-25 seconds would not be far behind. Though eventually replaced by the more advanced Ka-27, the Ka-25 laid the foundation for all future Kamov naval helicopters. Its coaxial rotor design proved highly effective and remains a defining feature of Kamov helicopters even today. In the broader Cold War picture, the Ka-25 reminds us that helicopter warfare wasn't limited to land battles. It extended into the oceans, the depths below them, and the silent cat-and-mouse games between submarines and airborne hunters. The Kamov Ka-25 may not have looked as menacing as tank-killing gunships, but in naval warfare, it was every bit as deadly, a quiet guardian of Soviet maritime power. The Kamov Ka-50 Black Shark was one of the most radical and ambitious attack helicopter designs to emerge during the final years of the Cold War. While it officially entered service after the Cold War ended, its design philosophy, testing, and development were deeply rooted in Cold War thinking. The Ka-50 was conceived as the Soviet Union's answer to Western attack helicopters like the AH-64 Apache, but with a distinctly Russian approach. What immediately set the Ka-50 apart was its single-seat configuration. This decision shocked Western analysts. Most attack helicopters relied on two crew members, one pilot and one weapons officer. Soviet engineers believed that advanced automation could allow a single pilot to control flight, navigation, targeting, and weapons simultaneously. This reduced weight, increased speed, and simplified the aircraft's profile. The Ka-50 continued Kamov's trademark coaxial rotor system, eliminating the tail rotor entirely. This not only made the helicopter more compact, but also dramatically improved maneuverability. The Black Shark could perform aggressive turns, rapid climbs, and even aerobatic maneuvers unheard of in traditional helicopters. In a dogfight with another helicopter, the Ka-50 would have been extremely difficult to outmaneuver. Firepower was at the heart of the Black Shark's design. Mounted on the starboard side of the fuselage was a powerful 30mm Shipunov cannon capable of destroying armored vehicles, bunkers, and enemy helicopters. Under its stub wings, the Ka-50 could carry rockets, bombs, and advanced anti-tank guided missiles designed to defeat NATO armor formations in Europe. Survivability was another key focus. The Ka-50 was one of the first helicopters in the world equipped with an ejection seat. In an emergency, explosive bolts would blow away the rotor blades, allowing the pilot to eject safely, an extraordinary feature in rotary wing aviation. The cockpit was heavily armored, and critical systems were duplicated to ensure the helicopter could survive battle damage. The Black Shark was also designed for night and all-weather combat, using electro-optical sensors and targeting systems that allowed it to hunt tanks in darkness or poor visibility. This reflected Cold War doctrine, where a massive armored conflict in Europe was expected to unfold around the clock. Despite its advanced design, the Ka-50 faced significant challenges. The collapse of the Soviet Union crippled military funding, and only a small number of Ka-52s were ever produced. While it saw limited combat testing in later conflicts, it never entered full-scale service as originally intended. Nevertheless, the Ka-50's influence was enormous. Its technology and design philosophy directly led to the development of the Ka-52 Alligator, a two-seat variant that continues to serve today. Many of the Black Shark's innovations, coaxial rotors, heavy firepower, and advanced survivability systems, remain central to modern Russian attack helicopter doctrine. In the story of Cold War aviation, the Kamov Ka-50 stands as a glimpse into an alternative future, one where attack helicopters were faster, more aggressive, and flown by a single pilot, pushing both machine and human limits to their extremes. While it lacked the heavy armor of dedicated attack helicopters, like the Apache or Mi-24, the Westland Lynx compensated with speed, flexibility, and precision. It proved that a helicopter didn't need to be massive or intimidating to be effective. It simply needed to be smart. The Westland Lynx remains a defining symbol of British Cold War aviation, fast, adaptable, and deadly when required. The Bell AH-1 Huey is one of the most recognizable helicopters in military history, but before the rise of dedicated attack helicopters, the Huey also served as one of America's earliest and most important gunships. The OH-1C variant was specifically developed during the Vietnam War to provide armed escort and close air support, laying the foundation for all future attack helicopter designs. By the mid-1960s, the United States Army realized that troop transport helicopters were extremely vulnerable during insertions and extractions. The solution was to arm helicopters heavily enough to suppress enemy fire. The OH-1C was the result of that urgent battlefield requirement. Unlike earlier Huey models, it featured a more powerful engine and improved rotor system, giving it better speed, climb performance, and maneuverability under combat load. The -1 degree Celsius gunship could be armed with an intimidating mix of weapons. Door-mounted machine guns provided defensive fire, while rocket pods allowed the helicopter to saturate enemy positions with explosive force. Some configurations included grenade launchers or miniguns, turning the Huey into a flying artillery platform. This firepower made it invaluable for protecting troop transports and attacking enemy strongholds hidden in jungle terrain. In Vietnam, the OH-1C became a symbol of air mobility and aerial fire support. It flew low and slow over dangerous territory, absorbing enemy fire while delivering precise and immediate support to ground forces. Its ability to hover and maneuver in tight spaces gave it a unique advantage over fixed-wing aircraft. However, the OH-1C also revealed the limitations of armed utility helicopters. Its large profile and lack of heavy armor made it vulnerable to ground fire. These weaknesses highlighted the need for a new generation of helicopters designed specifically for attack roles, leading directly to the development of the AH-1 Cobra. Despite this, the OH-1C remained in service for years and influenced helicopter warfare across the globe. Many nations adopted similar gunship concepts, using utility helicopters as armed platforms when dedicated attack helicopters were unavailable. During the Cold War, the OH-1C stood as a transitional design, a bridge between transport helicopters and modern gunships. It proved that helicopters could dominate the battlefield from low altitude and respond instantly to threats, forever changing how wars were fought. The Huey's unmistakable sound and battlefield presence cemented its place in history. While later attack helicopters would surpass it in speed, armor, and precision, the OH-1C's legacy lives on as the helicopter that showed the world what aerial fire support truly meant. The Mil Mi-8 is often remembered as a workhorse transport helicopter, but during the Cold War, it also evolved into a formidable gunship. While the Soviet Union developed dedicated attack helicopters like the Mi-24, the Mi-8 filled a crucial role by combining troop transport, logistics, and heavy firepower in a single adaptable platform. Introduced in the early 1960s, the Mi-8 quickly became one of the most widely produced helicopters in history. Its strength lay in simplicity, ruggedness, and reliability. Soviet doctrine emphasized mass production and versatility, and the Mi-8 perfectly embodied that philosophy. When battlefield conditions demanded immediate fire support, the Mi-8 could be armed and sent into combat with minimal modification. Gunship variants of the Mi-8 were equipped with external hardpoints capable of carrying rocket pods, machine gun pods, bombs, and even early anti-tank guided missiles. Door gunners added additional firepower, allowing the helicopter to suppress enemy positions during troop landings or assaults. While not as sleek or agile as dedicated attack helicopters, the Mi-8 compensated with sheer volume of fire. In combat, the Mi-8 was often used to escort transport formations, attack fortified positions, and provide close air support. Its large cabin allowed it to carry troops while still engaging enemy targets, making it especially valuable during rapid offensive operations. This dual-role capability meant commanders could respond flexibly to changing battlefield conditions. The Mi-8 saw extensive combat use during the Soviet-Afghan War. Early in the conflict, it dominated the battlefield, striking insurgent positions with rockets and machine guns. However, as the war progressed and more advanced anti-aircraft weapons appeared, the Mi-8's vulnerabilities became apparent. Its large size and lack of heavy armor made it a tempting target. Despite these challenges, the Mi-8's survivability remained impressive. It was known for returning to base with severe damage, a testament to its robust design. Crews trusted the helicopter with their lives, and that trust cemented its legendary status. Within the broader Cold War context, the Mi-8 gunship variant represents the Soviet preference for adaptable, multi-purpose weapons systems. It was not designed as a pure attack helicopter, yet it played a critical combat role wherever Soviet forces operated. Even today, the Mi-8 and its descendants remain in service across dozens of countries. Its Cold War gunship variants may not have been glamorous, but they were effective, proving that sometimes the most dangerous weapons are the ones built to do everything. The Sikorsky S-67 Black Hawk was one of the most ambitious and unconventional attack helicopter prototypes to emerge during the Cold War. Developed in the late 1960s, it was not an official US Army program, but a private venture by Sikorsky to demonstrate what the future of high-speed attack helicopters could look like. Unlike conventional designs, the S-67 was built for speed and firepower. It featured a sleek, aggressive fuselage, retractable landing gear, and short wings that provided additional lift at high speeds. These wings also carried weapons, transforming the helicopter into a fast-moving gunship rather than a slow, hovering platform. The Black Hawk was heavily armed for its time. It mounted a powerful cannon in the nose along with rocket pods and anti-tank missiles on its wings. Sikorsky envisioned it as a helicopter capable of striking enemy armor formations quickly, then escaping before ground defenses could respond. One of the S-67's most impressive achievements was its performance. It set unofficial speed records for helicopters and demonstrated maneuverability that rivaled fighter aircraft at low altitude. During test flights, it proved that helicopters could be both fast and lethal, a key Cold War concern as air defenses became more deadly. Despite its promising performance, the S-67 never entered production. The US Army ultimately favored more practical and survivable designs, such as the AH-1 Cobra, which were cheaper and easier to deploy. Tragically, the prototype was lost in a crash in 1974, bringing the program to an end. Even so, the Sikorsky S-67 Black Hawk left a lasting impact. Its design concepts influenced future attack helicopters and helped push the boundaries of what rotary, wing aircraft could achieve during the Cold War. The Mil Mi-28, known in the West as the Havoc, was born from one clear Cold War reality. The Soviet Union needed a dedicated, modern attack helicopter to counter NATO's growing armored strength. While the Mi-24 Hind combined troop transport with firepower, Soviet planners realized that the future demanded a pure tank-killing gunship, one built solely for attack. Development of the Mi-28 began in the early 1970s, at the height of Cold War tension. The mission was simple but demanding: create a heavily armored helicopter capable of surviving intense battlefield fire while destroying enemy tanks in large numbers. This made the Mi-28 a direct counterpart to Western designs like the AH-64 Apache. Unlike the Mi-24, the Mi-28 abandoned the troop-carrying role entirely. Everything about its design focused on combat effectiveness. The cockpit featured a tandem crew arrangement, with a pilot and weapons officer seated separately for maximum efficiency. Both cockpits were heavily armored, designed to withstand small arms fire and shrapnel. At the heart of the Mi-28's lethality was its 30mm chin-mounted cannon, capable of engaging both ground and aerial targets. Combined with rocket pods and advanced anti-tank guided missiles, the Havoc was designed to eliminate entire armored columns in a single mission. In a Cold War battlefield scenario across Europe, Mi-28s would have flown low, using terrain to mask their approach before unleashing devastating firepower. Survivability was a top priority. The Mi-28 featured redundant flight systems, armored fuel tanks, and damage-tolerant rotors. Even after sustaining heavy damage, the helicopter was designed to keep flying long enough to escape or complete its mission. This reflected Soviet doctrine, which assumed high-intensity combat against a technologically advanced enemy. Another key feature was its all-weather and night-fighting capability. The Mi-28 was equipped with sensors and targeting systems that allowed it to operate in darkness, fog, and poor weather, conditions expected during a large-scale Cold War conflict. This ability ensured continuous pressure on enemy forces day and night. Despite its advanced design, the Mi-28 faced stiff competition from the Kamov Ka-50 during testing. Political changes, funding shortages, and the eventual collapse of the Soviet Union delayed its full deployment. As a result, the Mi-28 never saw combat during the Cold War itself. However, the Havoc's story did not end there. The aircraft entered service in the post-Cold War era, refined and upgraded, but its DNA remained firmly rooted in Cold War thinking. Every line of its design reflects a world preparing for massive armored warfare across Europe. The Mil Mi-28 stands today as a bridge between eras, a helicopter conceived during the Cold War, perfected afterward, and still relevant on modern battlefields. It represents the Soviet belief in heavy armor, overwhelming firepower, and relentless battlefield presence.